Hola amigos de Retumba. This is Paul from The Ocean and Nightmare, and I want you to check out the new stuff if you get your hands on it.
Paul.
Hello,
Let's
guys.
go with Paul, the
Whatever
Mexican
you want to call me.
pronunciation. So, how are you today, man?
I'm actually doing fine. Yeah, I'm. I woke up with a good mood. The sun was shining, and spring is slowly arriving in Berlin after what felt like 7 months of winter. So, um, yeah, I'm
Finally,
looking forward to having
finally,
some good weather.
finally warming up.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm done with whatever I wanted to do today, so I'm
Awesome.
I'm here for you.
Perfect. Well, is this your first Mexican interview? I'm curious.
For me personally, yes. Yeah. I
Great.
don't I don't think I've done any interviews with any Mexican people or pages or whatever. I think I've done one with a Chilean page recently, but that was something else. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the topic, the main topic today. 10 years ago, you formed a band along with Simon. But also 10 years ago, you officially joined the Ocean Collective. And
Correct. Yeah.
next month, both bands are releasing new material, each one
What a
being,
coincidence.
yes, for you, I mean.
Yeah.
So each one being very much anticipated in its own
Mhm.
regard. So I would like to discuss both things. And if
Absolutely.
there's time, your electronic project form.
Mhm.
But before that, I would like to tackle with some questions about your origins as a musician or
Mhm.
music enthusiast. So let me know, how was your entrance to the world of heavy music, or what bands um, started your passion or your music
Mhm.
taste for this kind of, you know.
Um, I mean, I kind of grew up with music already because my father is a musician as well, and he's been playing in a band when I was a child. So
Hmm.
some of my first memories are seeing him play live and uh, him sitting in the studio recording stuff or playing the piano, or he was also playing the trumpet and the guitar, like multi-instrumentalist pretty much. And
Hmm.
so I had a very early contact to music. um I didn't really consider doing it myself because I was kind of like, I don't want to do what my father is doing, you know. I want to do something else. And but for some reason I ended up sitting behind the drum set one day.
So
And
you
yeah.
were reluctant at first.
Well, I had lessons on piano and guitar when I was a child, but I didn't really feel like I was enjoying it very much. You know, it was more like, let's learn this instrument, and my parents want me to learn an instrument or whatever, and I'll just go with the flow, and that never really clicked with me. Although I mean, nowadays I think differently about it, obviously, but and at some point I started a school band with my friends from my class, and we wanted to do like covers from Limp Bizkit and Deftones and whatever new metal bands we were listening to, because we were big into new metal bands back in the day. And I actually started out singing in that band.
Hmm. Not
But
drums yet.
no drums yet. Yeah. And at some point, I think we just tried out switching the roles because our drummer was struggling with something. And I had a weird feeling of kind of having memories of playing drums, you know, like just knowing some stuff, although I had never really played it before. and I just felt an immediate, I don't know, joy and feedback from this instrument. So that's really when things started to kick off for me, and yeah, the rest is history, basically.
So music was a big part of your life, both
Yeah.
in education and uh, it was like an integral part of your family, and also you took it from there to your own personal passion or motivations, right? I mean,
Yeah, totally.
I guess I guess everyone at some point are like leaning into making music. I remember my teen years also
Mm.
was with drums. I start at 9 or 10 maybe, although
Hmm.
I never took the leap into being an spectator and to a performer.
Hmm.
So my next question for you is, okay, now you mentioned how did you discover your love for the drums, but
Hmm.
what made you make that switch from a spectator to performer? For for example, with the band War from the Harlot's Mouth.
Um, it was not a very, I mean, it wasn't a, I didn't plan on making a living with drumming per se, you know. I kind of knew that I wanted to follow that path, and I even quit school to tell my dad that I'm gonna be a drummer. uh,
And how did he react? Did he react?
he was actually fine with it, which was kind of surprising to me, but in hindsight, I'm obviously thankful for it. That he allowed me to just go my own way and follow whatever was giving me a good vibe and good feeling. Maybe I was a little bit naive in my 18 or 19 years of age, but yeah. So I just spent a lot of time practicing and playing with my friends and other musicians in Berlin. There was a generally a very active scene, and people were just having bands on every corner play. There were dozens of clubs that you could just perform in. So I had a kind of like a good schooling in just playing club shows as early as possible. I remember playing contests and driving outside of Berlin to play some weird village club show, in front of 5 people. But that was like an adventure for us. So we kind of, um, I don't know, it was a very gradual transition into being more active and playing more shows. And then at some point, I met Simon at one of these shows as well. And we just casually talked about wanting to play music together, because it seemed logical. We liked each other's bands back in the day. And at some point, we started doing that. And we started the whole War from Mahalit's Mouth thing. And then we recorded I think it was 3 or 4 songs EP in 2006. And during the MySpace age, that really started to make some waves globally, and people were following us all of a sudden. I think we had like 50,000 uh, MySpace followers within the first 5 or 6 months, and people knew our music everywhere, and that's how we also started getting more gigs and more concerts. And so gradually we became more active and actually ended up also earning some money with it. It took a while, actually. Like I would say, out of these 8 years that we played together, it took at least 4 years to really getting some money for it, and
Mm,
earning some money with the shows. When we had already played, I would say 200, 300 shows,
wow.
basically. So we were very active, and we took every chance that was offered to us. Like, we didn't leave any opportunity out of the equation.
Well, by then it was pretty much a professional band because here in Mexico we noticed that band. I mean, I remember those years it was like madcore, metalcore sound. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was younger. I didn't recognize all the sound as well as I can now.
Mm-hmm.
But so then you gradually start from new metal into
Mm-hmm.
taking steps into more heavy, extreme music.
Mm-hmm.
I can guess, I can assume that you also discover newer sounds, newer trends within that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you already responded my third question, which was how did you meet Simon?
Mm-hmm.
But from that point on, you two continue to work together. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
so and in I have last week I had a conversation with him and he spoke
Mm-hmm.
about how the two of you wanted to start a new band, leaning forward into some of the musical aspects that the previous one was already developing
Mm-hmm.
in the last record, but taking a more direct spin into dissonant extreme metal.
Mm-hmm.
And thus Night Matter was born. So I'm guessing you are also sharing that kind of music taste for the extreme.
I I'm not as an active dissonant death metal listener as I used to be, I have to admit, but I definitely do enjoy the tension and in general just dissonant music that works outside of the norm, you know, like I like extreme music in every kind of sense. So this is I think this is a passion we both share, and we both can feel at home in, you know. So yeah, there was definitely a common sense for both of us when we started the Nightmare project, because War from a Harlot's Mouth had already kind of turned into this direction. We wanted to explore more extreme ways of writing riffs and songs in general, while kind of also trying to be I don't know, I don't want to say catchy, but
Oh,
it might be the wrong word, but maybe you know what I mean. Like we wanted to try to make it digestible, although being dissonant and chaotic, you know.
or approachable for
Approachable is might be the best word, yeah.
yeah. I mean, as a drummer, I imagine that it's a fun genre to play with. I mean, one of the things that I that attract me from those styles is the drumming parts.
Mm-hmm.
I think is one of the styles that can get along with drum parts or drumming as uh, conduct
Mm-hmm.
mainly aside from riffs.
Mm-hmm.
So and I agree with you. The nightmare sound from the beginning I remember was especially in the production and the rhythms was more approachable and
Mm-hmm.
that other bands. So my question for you will be how did you wanted to approach this style of music with your drumming parts?
um I remember when we started writing the first songs, I was still kind of in the mindset of I have to I have to show everything I'm capable of.
Mm.
You know? Like just the urge to prove something, maybe, you know, maybe a little bit of a younger attitude that I was carrying back then. But I specifically remember Simon showing me an idea and asking me to add some drums, and I was just going nuts and just like, let's add a break here and let's add a little subdivision there, and you know, accents, and it
Yeah.
was way too much, you know. And afterwards, afterwards we kind of found the a good recipe of yeah, like approachable stuff that you can recognize somehow, that doesn't make you feel overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, while still being intricate and interesting. And I think that's kind of been my way forward ever since. Yeah, especially in terms of writing drum parts and finding a way to suit the song, and not suit myself.
Yes, yes. So nowadays you could say that you don't have the urge to compete or showing off with your compositions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody who starts playing an instrument and notices that things are evolving and things are getting more complicated and faster, and I don't know, in general, more take more time to practice. You kind of wanna reach the next level. You want to improve. You want to get better, and especially in this time of social media, where you constantly get confronted with new musicians and new techniques, and you can basically learn everything like this. It's easy to fall into this trap, to think like, all right, I'm going to join in and I'm going to show everyone what I can play, so but yeah, but there's more to it, there's more to writing music than just showing your instrument. It's interacting with other musicians. It's writing music, writing songs, like songwriting is not about showing off. You can do
Exactly.
that if you want to, but it's gonna be a very boring album, because every song is gonna sound the same.
Yeah, I have an interview years some days ago, and the person mentioned an interview with the guy from Neurosis, Steve,
Mhm.
and he was talking about how his music was like a kick in the face,
Mhm.
but at some point the kicking in the face stopped having an effect for
Mhm.
him and for the listener. So I would say that exactly, writing music is not necessarily about being all fast, all violence or intensity. And
Mhm.
one of the aspects that attracts me about Night Matter is the room to read,
Mhm.
to gain a different perspective of heaviness than
Mhm.
just chaos. And I
Yeah.
remember the first album from Night Matter. It was you all over the places.
Yeah.
But I noticed, and this is something that you maybe have already answered, that I noticed a slightly different drumming attitude in this new album.
Mhm.
Not as fast, not as heavy or overwhelming. I mean, the songs are not necessarily always choosing violence or
Mhm.
you know that, but at the same time, uh, it offers some sort of surprise or
Mhm.
explosiveness. I mean, you don't necessarily see the punch coming, but when it comes, you feel it, and that is also part of your work here, I would say, because it's not fast, but it's agile. It's There is some lightness to it in the
Mhm.
way you play blast and go from all of the drums, and yeah, how much is that a conscious thing for the songs, that like the songs needed this kind of performance,
Mhm.
or you just made in I don't want to play that kind of music, I will try my own input. How much is that consciously for you?
It's a good question. I mean, in general, when Simon and me are writing music together, we're trying to how do I say this best? It's like you want to compose a story, you want to if you work on an album, you want to tell a story that is kind of coherent, that takes you by the hand, and gives you the chance to listen through it somehow. And of course, that's much more interesting if the songs are diverse and not repetitive. So we always try to add something surprising, like you mentioned already, that you wouldn't maybe expect from us, or
In
And
general, I would say in general.
just in general, if you listen to music, you know, the 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 things I remember most about finding music that really touched me was surprises, you know, like
Re-
harmonically or just
reactions from.
sound-wise, you know, like it can be in dynamics, it can be in harmony, it can be in soundscapes or in the way it's mixed. It's always the peculiar approach of a band or an artist that really sticks out and touches me personally. uh, it's very unpredictable sometimes, you know. So making things unpredictable or not trying to repeat yourself is a very healthy approach to writing songs, at least for me personally, and for Simon as well, I think. And yeah, there's also, I think one of the approaches we follow with Nightmare as well is to write music that is somehow miserable, you know, like a joyful misery that you can experience in a way, you know, because there's so much positivity and so much clean and honey and cheese out there that sometimes you just need a little bit of tension in your life. And I think that's already an approach that not many follow.
There's one particular song in the album that comes to mind.
Mhm.
On this thing that you're mentioning is the German title Taufbefehl. I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm pronouncing it correctly because it
Yeah,
has this joyful playing. Just you're just standing up.
yeah.
It's quite unexpected, but you made it work. Um, uh, yeah, Simon already told me about how it was a product mainly about the collaborator from Valborg.
Mhm.
But how did you nightmareize the song, if that makes sense?
Mhm.
Um, do you have some names, artist name, bands names in general that touch you on that scale, on that level of, you know, um, making music memorable that maybe inspired you?
That's a there's so many bands that I don't know. I think for me personally, it's definitely Nine Inch Nails, for
Mm.
example, that had a very big impact on my perspective on what's possible
Mhm.
on writing songs and working with sounds and distortion. And there's also bands like contemporary bands like Author and Punisher, for example,
Oh, yes.
or
Yes.
Godflesh, that just I don't know, they just find a way of making noise and distortion sound good, you know. And I think what we aimed to do with this song in particular was to have this kind of marching Rammstein almost
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
vibe to it, without being too cheesy, you know. And I think the Valbok collaboration really adds to this vibe as well. So yeah.
It's funny that you mention Outer and Punisher. I mean,
Mhm.
it has to do all that the art bands you mentioned has to do with the kind of subtext musically on this album, like the industrial parts. And in some parts, for example, the song Throw of Illicit Withdrawal
Mhm.
has like a subtle mechanical industrial overtone on the snare. And it very much reminded me of Outer and Punisher, like this mechanical machinery clashing together. So,
Yeah.
how much were you responsible for those ideas in the production? Because I know now that you are also involved with mixing and producing electronic music.
Well, I mean, we both, like Simon and me, and I think also Keith and John, we all love this industrial metal music as well. And Simon and me talked about it. I mean, the album was written in 2000, early 2020, I think, when he was still living in Florida, and I visited him for 2 weeks. And we kind of had a clear picture of where we wanted to go with the new material, and adding more industrial layers was definitely part of it. So yeah, I mean, I just started working on sounds basically. It was also the case on the previous album already, where we added layers of distorted pianos and distorted drum samples and stuff like this, or just recorded some plastic foil that was just held in front of the microphone. And yeah, I just in general enjoy working with sounds that appear out of nowhere, and you can always do something with distortion or chance or chaos, you know, like can
Yeah,
add layers to it. So
and this album has this more present vibe of experimentation with noisy soundscapes. Is this something that you would like to take further into next compositions with the band?
the good thing is that I think we can just go anywhere from here.
Yeah.
You know, I think what we would also love to explore is a more unstructured approach.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of typical song structures, you know. I can also imagine going more into the electronic side of things, in terms of having more and more industrial sounds as well. But there's so much room, you know. That I mean, Simon and Keith are also big guitar nerds, and exploring with sounds on a daily basis with new pedals, and I'm pretty sure they will already start writing some material soon with whatever they have at hand. Um, and I
So
also enjoy working on sound production. You know, I like working on sounds and morphing and bending whatever I get my hands on. So it's hard to say at this point. Uh, as long as it's extreme in a way,
yes,
you
yes.
know, I think that's the
So
common ground we all share.
you are still very much into extreme music.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's
Um,
if I'm not always in the mood for it, you know, like I love pop music, for example. I can listen to pop music every day, but I don't feel like it every day.
it's
Sometimes
important. It's important to have a range also as a
absolutely,
listener.
yeah. Just like you have emotional range, you know, you don't always feel happy, you don't always feel sad, and you also don't always feel angry. So I'm not gonna listen to angry music all the time, just as much as I'm not gonna listen to, I don't know, happy music every time.
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect to Nightmare become this hyperbolic entity with poppy stuff into their stuff.
I
So
doubt it.
and yeah,
I doubt it.
I don't see that coming. But I will like to hear heavy electronics more involved with this because it will be something new.
Yeah.
Um, and authentic and original. And for me, that's what it's all about, to discover new sensations within this heaviness
Mhm.
form of music. So sticking with that side, are you familiar with the band Autark? With is the, from Netherlands?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. No. Is it
It's
with a K or with a C?
uh,
Autark.
TH and KH.
Okay.
KH is like descendant from the Decahedron.
Okay. Oh, I love that band. Yeah.
Yeah, and the new stuff is like maybe outer out. I don't know how to pronounce this electronic producer. Outer tray,
I don't know.
and Apex Twin with
Mhm.
dodecahedron. Maybe that's Pal Omega, but it's like
Okay.
a nice evolution of mix smashing electronic, heavy electronics, industrialized,
Mhm.
and this sort of dissonant form of music. I would like suggest it for you. I will send you the name here in the chat. Um,
Mhm.
so as of now, you don't have um very much of an idea of what could come next for Night Matter.
I think it's gonna be a bit more organic. That I can tell already. To some degree, I think we all want things to be a bit more natural, um, which kind of counters the idea of having more industrial sounds. But also on the previous album, we've had just trash from outside of the studio, ending up adding industrial layers on the drums. We were just hitting some metal plates and some chains and stuff like this. So you can make anything sound industrial if you want. So I'm pretty sure that we will. I don't know. We always like to surprise ourselves as well. So it's really hard to say at this point.
But the main thing is to continue to experiment.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's one thing that we all love doing, it's is experimenting with our instruments and exploring new territory in a way. That kind of keeps the brain active and curious. I think if you start losing your curiosity in the instrument, I think you should look for something else.
Yeah, also it helps to don't run out of gas,
Mhm.
right? Um, so in terms of playing live, do you have plans to do so?
I think Simon is already looking for something, maybe in autumn this year. I can't really tell yet because there's no definite plan yet, but I would assume that this will happen sooner or later. This this will probably be Europe though. I'm not sure about North America or South America. Of course, it would be nice
Of
if
course.
it would happen at some point. Yeah.
Well, I ask because sometimes, I mean, I have the idea that Night Matter so far is more of a studio band,
Mhm.
but yeah, usually the live experience, the live shows give you an idea as to what kind of direction or what works best for the
Mhm.
band, right?
Mhm.
Sonically. So, well, hopefully that helps too to give you a guidance to what could come next. But I would expect great things, really, really great things for this band.
Well, I would sure hope so. It's always a bit tricky to plan with the whole touring thing because I'm also touring a lot with the ocean, and I'm trying to find a balance between life on the road and life at home. So as yeah, the main thing is that we have to plan in advance and communicate properly. That might have been a bit of an issue on my side in the past, but I think we will find a solution for it.
So you do still see more life in the future for Night Matter with
Yeah,
Junior.
absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say from my perspective because I've just played 150 shows with the ocean, and I'm a little bit tired of playing shows right now. But the other three guys from Nightmare, they haven't played any shows since I think 2019. So they're definitely
Eager.
eager to do it. But it's also, I mean, you've probably noticed that the whole music industry at this point is a little bit. I don't know. It's struggling a bit, because of inflation and wars going on, and people are a little more anxious on spending their money. So you have to make steps cautiously. I mean, of course, touring is great, but there's a difference between going on tour and losing 20,000 euros or going on tour and breaking even. Like even if both scenarios are not ideal, but you know what I mean. Like there's a choice to be made, and I think we're just gonna wait for the right opportunity, and we would love to present this album live, obviously, you know. Yeah.
Well, I have one last question about Night Matter, the
Mhm.
usual one. If you could, just for the sake of answering my question, connect, relate, assimilate, compare the ideas behind this album or Nightmare as a whole with another form of music, of art, or existing piece of work, like a movie, book, painting, what would that be and why?
Mm, that's a difficult question. Mm, it's really hard to tell. I think it would be a very, very obscure sculpture, made of different kind of metal pieces that somehow fit together but also don't.
Okay, okay. Well, Simon, I will give you Simon's answer. He mentioned architecture, brutalist
Mhm,
architecture,
mhm.
because it's very angular, very organic, and almost hard to look
Sorry,
at.
you're oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry, the connection was a bit was cutting off a little.
Oh, well, yeah. So I guess it's hard to answer this question, but it's also even harder for a sound like Night Matter
Mm,
because it's much area of gray in there,
mm.
not colorful.
Yeah.
But thank you for trying. Uh,
I think what I see in my head is some kind of metal sculpture that is made from trash pieces and magnetic metal elements that somehow form a shape that you can recognize, but it's also not very pleasant to look at.
you guys have coming out the new record Holocene on May 19th.
That's correct.
I've been listening to the album and man, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful one. It's a more moody record, while at the same time it's more colorful.
Mm-hmm.
I like this logical evolution that Robin mentioned is there, is present in the
Mm-hmm.
sound, and the band is taking some risks with a few more electronic modulations there.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me overall about this new album experience?
Um, it was a bit of a different approach this time, um, because, well, first of, I know it's been probably the story of many bands nowadays, but we were stuck at home, during the pandemic. We didn't have any shows to be played, so we had to find a way to be creative. Robin and me were trying to be very busy with Pelagic Records, focusing a little bit on that. And in the meantime, Peter and Robin started sending each other demos or sketches of ideas, basically. And I think Robin just started working around Peter's ideas somehow. And they kept on juggling these ideas back and forth to each other. And eventually there was an album. I mean, there were demos, produced demos that were sounding good already, and then we started recording drums. I think it was in 2000, end of 2021 is when I recorded the drums at Peter's place, called Die Mühle. It's north of Germany, and Robin and Loic, I think they spent at least a year working on recording and editing and trying different things, finding the right lyrics, finding the right takes for the vocals, and then finding a person to mix the record was another difficulty, because we all had different ideas of how this record was supposed to sound. It was a little bit of a struggle to find a common ground there, something we could all agree on. And eventually we ended up going back to our friend KD from Sweden, who had already recorded the Transcendental song with us in 2015. And he ended up mixing the record, and Chris Edrich, our previous sound guy, who was doing live sound for us, did the vocal production. So just as usual, there's a lot of players involved. It's the work of many people, and Robin being the main person for all of these things, communicating with the graphic designers and the mixing engineers, and of course all the band members. And I also played vibraphone on this record, which a vibraphone
Mm.
which Robin spontaneously bought, I think, in 2020 or something. So
And give it to you like, here, do
well,
something.
it was in the rehearsal room at some point, and he sent me the vibraphone parts he wanted me to play on, uh, and then Loic and me recorded this stuff. And well, the general difference to the previous records is that this was all in-house. Basically, it was all recorded by band members.
Mm.
We've basically done all the recordings ourselves for the first time, and that also gave us a lot of space and time to work on the songs a little bit more in detail, because usually you book a studio, you have I don't know, you have 2 weeks time to finish the album. Everybody has a certain amount of days to be finished, and then you go back home and wait until the mix is done.
Yeah, it was a different dynamic in the process,
Mhm.
because if I remember correctly from my past interview with Robin, he told me how the previous record was all, well, the last two previous record was basically all constructed in a bubble of jamming ideas in the whole
Mhm.
studio.
Mhm.
So and as far as I am aware, there was like a preconception for the new album, right? I mean, I would say like songs like Oligocene and well, of course, Oligocene are direct indicators of the new direction for this album,
Mhm.
and are songs which also you are heavily involved.
Mhm.
So uh, there was like a transition between what was previously discussed and what ended up being the result.
I think there's just a transition in the way the songwriting was approached in general,
Okay.
because on previous records it was mainly Robin writing all the songs and presenting everyone with a pretty much finished product already.
Okay.
It was more of a, here's what I had in mind for the drums, let's go record drums and
Oh,
work out the best parts for each song. And I think for Phanerozoic 1 and 2, we had at least well, we had a songwriting session, for example, where Oligocene and Holocene were written, and we had rehearsal sessions with David, Robin, and me, where we went through all the ideas and worked on particular parts, particular dynamics, fill-ins, and details. So we were already more involved in the whole creational process. And I think that just went to the next level now with Peter and Robin collaborating and really trying out different approaches on how to how to glue these very different kind of writing styles together and making it sound good, you know.
Yes.
And I think Robin also took a big step forward in that regard because he was always very well. He's the main songwriter still,
Very
you know.
protective of the
Yeah, but which I understand. You know, it's his baby. He's been working on this band for more than 2 decades, you know,
yeah,
and if you're used to doing things a certain way, it's sometimes a bit difficult to allow yourself to let go of certain habits, you know.
yeah,
So as with everything that has to do with creativity, it's a matter of being open-minded and allowing yourself to develop new perspective, basically.
definitely. And this one is a much more rich package of songs.
Mm,
And I understand it is has like a bit of trick there between finding the right spots for all of these elements, textures that conjoined in all of the
mm,
songs. And I've been listening like I'm telling you, and it's hard to decide on which songs are my favorites.
mm.
But I would like to ask you, what kind of input did you try to insert there in different from previous efforts?
Uh, to be honest, on this album, I try to do as little as possible. Um,
It
that was
shows.
that was also due to me being completely immersed in writing the fan album,
Okay.
because that was basically the first time that I really had the space and time to finish it, you know, because previously we were touring so much that I didn't have any capacity to really find my creative voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I heard that Peter and Robin were already working on new music, I was just thinking, well, that's great. Go ahead, do your thing, you know, and I'm gonna do my thing here. And whenever you're ready, I'm gonna be happy to record drums and whatever I can I can add to the album and to the quality of the songs. You know, it's not like, you know, there's certain drum parts, for example, that Robin writes that are very catchy, and I don't want to change these at all. Some parts are maybe not my taste, and I try to develop rhythms that are more up my alley. And in rehearsals, when you prepare for the studio, for example, it was the same with this album. David, Robin, and me again played through the songs and tried looking for parts where we could develop other things that were previously not there. It's always a matter of finding I wouldn't want to say compromise, because compromise always sounds like you don't want to do something. You know,
Oh,
it's a way of finding a synergy somehow, you know, like as I said previously, you know, the more experience you get, the less you really want to show what you can do on your instrument, and you want to focus on benefiting the song and making it the best possible outcome, you know. And in that regard, I just took myself back a little bit and trusted in the process, and also I think allowing the others to have a little more space, you know, um,
okay.
because it's a collective after all, you know.
Yeah.
It's more than more than one ingredient that makes a good song, and if people can collaborate in a healthy way that allows for ideas to prosper, then I'm all for it. You know, I don't have a big enough ego to
Mm.
needing to add my comments on everything.
And also because you already have your ego invested in Fern.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's many different languages I like speaking in music, and we all have different tastes and different interests, and sometimes you just gotta take a step back and let the others do the magic.
Well, if I may say, to me, you have grown to be like a distinctive arm within the ocean. I mean, like the one that gives organic motion to all of the parts. And what I find here is that, I mean, I don't know how much is you, how much is Robin or the other members, but
Mhm.
I like the decisions made for the percussion. I like what you do with the I don't know what it's called, the around the drum head. Uh,
Mhm. The
the
rim.
Okay, at the rim, around the rim.
Mhm.
It's since the last record I remember hearing it for the first time in the ocean, I was like, it's so simple but
Yeah.
so effective to introduce these sounds in the songs, and you here is like one of the it's more present in the songs, these parts,
Mhm.
and it functions quite well, I would
Thank
say.
you. Yeah. I think in general the drums are just a very a thankful instrument because there's so many parts, of course you can always focus on playing the hi-hat and the snare drum and the bass drum. Everybody will recognize that, but there's so many intricate sounds, even in just one part of the drums, that you could probably write drums for a whole album just on one of these parts. And yeah, I just like playing with these, and it's also helping me to find a more complex voice somehow, like my
Mhm.
vocabulary evolves with every album, and whenever there's a chance to add something new, then there we go.
And it could be also much more difficult to step out of your comfort zone in terms of rhythm drum patterns that you have already memorized or construct with your arms, or I
Mm.
don't know, muscle memory, if that's the
Mm.
correct expression. But to try to construct a different idea that is lesser, is more minimalistic approach to find the right spaces, it could be also harder. So I understand why the struggle maybe in this album.
Yeah, and it's like with anything that's nice, if you have
Exactly.
much of the nice things, then you kind of get a I would say you get bored of it, if you bake a cake, for example, and you add too much sugar, then it's not
Hmm.
really enjoyable. But if you add a little bit of sourness here and there with the fruits,
It's
or
it's 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 like a fine line between boredom or disrupt what is already elegant, right?
yeah. Yeah, and it's also about being humble enough to let let the space for other instruments take place, if I don't know, one of the most important lessons I got from my early drum teacher was, if the guitarist plays a guitar solo, then you don't have to play a drum solo, like
Mm,
there's room for everything, and if
yes,
there's
yes.
already so much happening, then you don't necessarily need to add more to the table,
Now that you mentioned
I think
that,
I think it's just a way of finding the right balance between technical skills and musical playing.
yeah, definitely. And also there are six members of the band,
Mhm.
and the fact that this is the album that sounds less busy, it says
Mhm.
something about how everyone give room to everybody.
Yeah.
And like everybody decide that no, you do your thing, no, you do your thing, and it ended up
No,
sound
go ahead, sir. No, you go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Do you have a favorite song in this album?
um I think my favorite is I have two favorite songs. I think it's oh, which are my favorite songs actually? That's hard to say. I think playing wise, it's Sea of Reeds and Parabiosis.
Oh yes, Sea Orbit is one of my favorites too.
That because I really like the ocean size vibe it has. I don't know if you're familiar with Ocean Size, that band.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Atmospheric vibe.
yeah. Atmospheric post rock, post metal, like
Uh-huh.
very yeah. And Parabiosis is just nice. I just like playing these drum beats. They're fun to play. You know.
So I understand that it was simultaneously work along with Fern.
Hmm.
Okay, it makes sense, some of the decisions you made there. One of my favorites so far is Boreal, because,
Hmm.
well, I always complain about how bands puts different moods as intro or interludes, but
Hmm.
don't really work them along the structure or dynamic of the songs. It's just like separate parts, and to me,
Hmm.
that's like a cheap trick, most of the times at least. But here, the Ocean, I mean, previously has proved capable of in the past of working these dynamics differently from different
Hmm.
approach, and I believe this song has that kind of shine on it. But my favorite also is the last one and the one with the singer Karim Park.
Hmm.
It
And
it
Conformities. Yeah, that's a great track.
it fits quite well, her voice.
Yeah, to be honest, that song was a bit of a difficult uh it was difficult to approach in the studio because not all of us were very happy with where it was headed, and we were
Oh,
kind of
wow.
unsure about the vibe of it. And I think up until Karen actually added her voice to the song, we were not sure if the song would be part of the whole thing. And as soon as we heard her voice on it, we were all definitely sold on it. But it's a very weird song for the ocean.
Yes.
It has a very Radiohead kind of vibe in the beginning, and then it just bursts out into, I don't know, whatever you would call that, but it's a difficult
It will
time.
be it would have been a interesting choice as a single if the band decided to do so. But I understand that it's also like a surprise on the record.
Yeah.
I was also actively trying to hear you singing on the album, and I don't know if you do, but
You will not find anything there.
um, okay. So I was getting the wrong idea on the song "Sea of Red" at the beginning. That maybe it was your
Oh, that's
voice.
actually Robin you hear there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So well, maybe on your next tour here in Mexico, we will. I mean, I was expecting to see you again singing another song, so that was my main motivation to find a new song when
Yeah.
you
And
sing.
I'm pretty sure that on the side of live concerts, we will make sure that everyone
Contributes.
contributes to, because there's so many vocal layers as well. It's not really possible for Loic to do all of them, and it's always a bit weird if you have all the backing tracks, running from a computer. It feels unnatural somehow. So we try to involve everyone somehow eventually. Getting there.
Yeah. Okay. So Holocene is the definitive closing chapter of the last 3 to 4 records.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's a
Um.
Precambrian, the both Phanerozoic albums and
Okay.
Holocene. Yeah.
Um. So this was special because the band took chances, took risks. But do you have an idea so far as what could follow next?
Um, I think that
Because
also depends a little bit on what we experience next.
oh,
You
okay.
we have a couple of things in the works in terms of touring right now, and touring is, at least to me, usually one of the most inspiring things to get creative and to get new ideas for musical approaches, because you just see so many different different perspectives on how people live, where people live, what
You know
music.
what?
Sorry?
I I I want to mention something. So you
Mhm.
work with Pelagic, and Pelagic is actively finding new artists, new bands.
Mhm.
Are you involved in that, in finding new bands to sign in?
Well, we're not always actively finding bands, but we're also just checking out whatever gets sent to us, you know.
Okay.
There's always a pool of applications or bands that we find interesting, and oftentimes we just sit together and listen to stuff that is new or that gets sent to us. And yeah, sometimes I recommend something, sometimes Robin, sometimes Chris, sometimes Anna, sometimes James. Sometimes it's a band that sends us an email, and it finds its way into our inbox, you know.
Okay, the reason I ask is because Playgrounded is a special record for me. The last one, I knew the band from their Gravity album.
Mhm.
Uh, so is who was responsible for finding or receiving,
I don't want to
grabbing
lie.
attention?
I don't really remember where that came from, to be
Okay,
honest. But I think it was actually what is his name again? Let let me just find it out real quick.
yeah, sure.
This an art. I can send you a link when I find it. It was an artist who's doing like artworks and shirt designs and stuff like this, and he actually recommended this band to Robin, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
And
because
I remember him showing me the land, like this. They sent a landing page with the new material, and I was
hooked.
instantly sold because the visuals just fit so well with the music, and everything was just thought out very well. And I don't know, I love that
Yeah,
shit.
me too. Honestly, I'm all for looking bands that insert or find a place within. How could I phrase it? Find its own place without focusing on trends or styles,
Mm,
but at the same time mixing all of, or very much, well, all sorts of influences and
absolutely, yeah.
electronic, prog rocky, post metal stuff.
Hmm.
For me is the most current thing. So
Mm,
post metal, of course, is like leading that torch.
hmm.
But Playgrounded is for me on pair with you too.
Yeah,
Um,
they're very good.
hopefully, hopefully, in your next tour for South America, you invite them because it will be a quite experience, I imagine.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. But to be honest, there's so many amazing pelagic bands that we have
Oh,
on the roster.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
we would have to do a pelagic festival tour or something.
And please tour worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We don't want to miss it. There's a new. Well, I would send it to you. The name. I I I would recommend you to listen. It's a Belarusian band called
Hmm.
Nebolai Come Sweet. I don't know if you are
Okay.
familiar with the name, but they
No.
sound great. Okay, I have a nice time speaking to you.
Yeah. Thanks for the nice conversation, dude. I really
I
appreciate it.
appreciate
Yeah.
too.
Likewise.
I have the Robin phone number for the time here in Guadalajara, but I don't want to bother him with that interview request directly.
Mhm.
I mean, so if you could send my word to him that I would like to have a conversation about,
You mean Robin?
yeah, Robin.
Yeah, sure. I can just forward your email address to our pelagic PR guy who is doing
Uh,
the. You have it
Chris,
already,
Chris.
Chris? Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I will go with him directly then.
Yeah, just ask him. I think Robin is available for interviews anyway. So
Perfect.
Robin likes to talk.
Yes, he does. He does.
And
And
I don't mean it in a negative way.
no, and it's great. I
Yeah.
would also want to search for the opportunity to speak with David.
Mhm.
Have a Spanish conversation about the ocean.
Oh yeah,
It
absolutely.
it
Makes
will
sense.
be great. That's a nice opportunity.
Sure.
Well, Again, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
If you have any last words to say to our audience, please do.
Well, I don't know, just stay open-minded and check out new music whenever you can. That's all I can say. And
Perfect.
support your favorite bands. Have a nice evening and or a nice morning or a nice afternoon or